details, and I'm ready to nail it. I want it. I'm ready. I'm walking tall.
You think you're ready to run with the Bulls?
I've been earning and burning, snapping necks and cashing checks. I'll tell you right now, I'll nail it. I'll pull it off, okay?
Wait a second, why do you want this so bad?
Because I want to make bank, bro. I want to drive a Range Rover.
My killers who will not take no for an answer. My fucking warriors. I want you to deal with your problems by becoming rich.
I can fire it off right now, yeah?
Not yet, dude.
All right, I'm eager. I'm eager beaver, bro.
Eager beaver, dude.
All right, we're good.
Well, we've been going a little bit, so me personally, I'm kind of fired up. I'm not kind of fired up. I'm really fired up for this podcast. I was thinking about it last night, thinking about kind of over the last week, and once I found out that we're going to have this guest to my right on the podcast, and we were kind of talking about it prior to this, but to my right, he's a man that is doing something that a lot of people talk about and want to do, and has a tremendous amount of knowledge and success in fixing, flipping properties, buying and holding properties, and as you can see where we're sitting right now, developing properties. Everybody, when they talk about real estate and people that I come in contact with being realtors, James and I ourselves, and you being a contractor and developer and everything I just spoke about, everybody's like, oh, I want to do this. I want to build my own properties, and I want to, X, Y, and Z. And this man to my right has done that successfully, and to my vision and watching him do it and talking with these guys, he's an expert at this, and I'm excited for everybody to learn from you. Welcome to the podcast, Mike Nelson.
Man, that might have been the longest one right there.
That was the longest one by far.
That might have been the longest one, dude.
But honestly,
Welcome Mike Nelson, though.
So that's
Welcome Mike Nelson.
I want to know from the start, like, how you got into this, how you succeeded, how it's going now. But like, I think, where do we start? We start from the beginning, right?
Well, first of all, this is our first
away game.
Oh shit! Yeah. So as you can see, we're not in the studio today. We're in West Danville, California, in the inside of a half-built,
the soon-to-be dopest house in Danville.
Half-built home. Gonna be super sick. We'll get some B-roll, hopefully, of it.
And this is one of your projects. Yeah.
So
one of 4 houses that are about to be on this lot. So if you're looking to buy, hit up my guy.
There we go. So yeah, man, I guess why don't you give us a little bit about like your story, I guess, kind of like where you come from, and I guess some of your earlier years leading up to like getting in this type of industry.
So simple enough. Can you guys hear me all right? Yeah. So from the area, I grew up in Antioch and grew up, had a lot of love in the house, had a lot of support in the house, didn't have a lot of money in the house, right? Saw people, Antioch's an interesting place where part of the city, it's older homes, it's a little bit of a different community. And then when I was around middle school, they started building up an entire area with just these huge homes, mansions, in my opinion, what I almost envisioned Beverly Hills to look like, right? I had no concept of it. But going out toward Brentwood, and I had a lot of friends that also lived over there. And so I'd go from my house, which, again, it was decent, but I was over off East 18th in a neighborhood off of East 18th, and I'd go to these 5,000 square foot homes or whatever it was, and I was like, man, this is possible.
Right.
It doesn't seem like it's possible for us, but it's possible. And so I think kind of growing up without, in certain regards, just made me want it that much more because, again, I saw that other people can have it, so if they can, why can't we? Why can't I, right? Having no idea how to get there, my parents, they didn't go to college, right? They just had average jobs. Pops was a mechanic. And not really having a game plan. College really wasn't promoted too much in the household. It was kind of like, hey, graduate, you can go become a cop, or you can go become something where you can just kind of jump on in and get a job, right? Mid-management type thing. And I never really wanted to do any of those things. Funny enough, what I was really good at in my late teenage years was partying. And so
All of us were.
So I was working at a restaurant in Concord, had a great group of friends.
Shout it
over
out,
there.
dude. Elephant Bar, right?
No, it was Claim Jumpers.
Oh, that was Claim Jumpers. Your first one was Claim Jumpers.
R.I.P. R.I.P. Claim Jumpers.
R.I.P. I met my fiance, or actually that was our first date when I said we were dating.
Claim
at Claim
Jumpers?
Jumpers.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Man, it'll get you. It'll get you. Everybody's got a story.
Love you, Victoria.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That's awesome, man. In Concord? Scoop Ford? Yeah. Oh, good. Is that better? All right. So we were working there and had a couple good friends. It was spring break down in Rosarito. Obviously, we had no reason to be going to spring break, being that we weren't on spring break. But my buddy goes, hey, man, let's jump on down tonight. And at that time, I had literally just that morning broken up with my, at that time, girlfriend. And I was like, hell yeah, we're going to go down to spring break. You know what I mean? Like, it's time to one up. So he pulls up to my house that night with another guy in the car, and he pulls up in the drop top. And we're driving down to San Diego. And I was like, what's up with this car? He was like, man, I just got it. I was like, oh, shit, this is dope. So we get on in, driving down. As we're driving, at some point on the trip, I see his left hand on the wheel, and I see he's got this beautiful watch on. Keep in mind, just for context, right? Like, I'm 20. He was probably like 22, 23. It wasn't like an AP. It was probably a Movado or something like that. But
This is probably like, what, 2000?
So this is 2005.
Okay.
2005.
That's like when I actually met you. It was around that
Yep.
time, like
Yep.
2004, 2005.
Yeah, so we were like, 19, 20,
Yeah.
right in that little pocket. And I'm like, bro, what's up with this watch? He was like, yeah, man, I just got this. And I was like, what are you doing, man? You know?
Yeah.
So he goes, I'm starting to do loans. Because again, keep in mind, we're working for tips. Right. And he was like, I started to do loans. And pretty much for the rest of that 10-hour drive, I could not stop talking about it.
Right.
I was fucking up the whole vibe. These guys just want to listen to music. You know what I mean?
Like,
we're talking
how
about
do I
money.
get this fucking money?
Yeah. And I could not stop asking him questions. And for that entire weekend, we had a great time. We partied it up. But any moment that I was alone with him, I was just asking questions. Like, what do you do? Like, how does this work? How can I do it? And he's giving me the information and basically was like, hey, man, when we get back, I'll introduce you to my broker. So came on back, swear to God, whatever day it was, the next day, jumped over to Burlington Coat Factory, bought a little,
A little two-piece?
Yeah, a little something that was not tailored. It was way too big on me, right? I looked like a complete dirtbag.
Matching tie.
Yeah, matching tie, right? Like going to prom or something. And roll on in, there's this office. It was called Quality Financial Incorporated.
That sounds super legitimate.
Bro, super legit, right? So it was in Pleasant Hill. I go on in there, and when I'm waiting for the broker, I sit down in this cubicle. It was someone's cubicle, and basically there was all this like subliminal messages, right? And it was like, you deserve to wear that $3,000 Versace suit. Like, somebody just bought a Bentley today. Why isn't it you? And I was like reading all this stuff, and I was like, oh shit. And this is the first time I've been around this type of positive environment, right?
Yeah.
And so some people might have been turned off by it, but I was so intrigued.
Fired up.
I was just excited. I wanted to learn. Went to the broker's office, had a conversation with him, and he was just like, why do you deserve one of the desks? And I was like, I can't tell you why. I just know, though, after I got done reading all of these messages outside, like, I want to run through a wall.
Yeah.
And he was like, that answer works.
That's the
right?
guy I need.
So I started learning how to do loans. Unfortunately, it wasn't a super legitimate business, believe it or not. The quality was subpar. And while I was going through my training, and I actually locked in my first refi. So I locked in my first refi like 2 weeks in, and I was pumped about it.
Yeah.
I was going to make a couple bucks, but in my mind, I had a proof of concept down. And I show up one day to go work on their computer, do some training, and there was a note on the door. It was like, we're going to be closed all week. That's odd, right? Hella agents over here.
Right.
Long story short, man, I don't want to spend too much time on this guy, but he stole everyone's commission. He had some shady thing going on with escrow where escrow was cutting him checks on EMDs. And he took off with however many, it was a few $1 million, and him and his wife bounced out of the country.
And the real estate collapse happened.
And here's the fucked up part. I was more intrigued.
Right.
You're like,
I was like, what is going on?
How do I be that guy?
No, I didn't want to be that guy, but I was like, this is
like,
nuts.
Yeah, like, you got away with this?
I was like, the most exciting thing I have happened on my job is we'll send out a steak that's medium and it comes out well done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyways, that led me to another guy out of Concord. His name was Rob Burton, and that ended up being a huge influence on my life. He did loans, he had a real estate side, and he had an investment side, right? So we had this whole like trifecta thing going on. And I signed up with him, and keep in mind, this is at a time like you weren't licensed, you know, like the joke always was if you had a pulse, you could make money in real estate, right? But I started learning from him. I signed up to do loans, and I never did one loan from him, but I was at his office almost every day. Him and I would have coffee. I would just hang out in his office. We would talk, and I would just soak up everything. It was definitely like a 2 ears, one mouth situation for me, and I just wanted to be around the guy because he was the most successful person I had known at that point in my life. And so I was really intrigued by this investment side of things. He was, you know, forming syndicates and going and buying huge buildings all over the country. And I was just watching. I mean, I remember he made a comment where he was like, I don't have to do any of this anymore if I don't want to. He was like, I do it because I love it. And he was like, but the money's been made. And it was just this like very calm reassurance. And it was somebody that was on the other side of money.
Right.
Everyone that I'd known up to that point in my life are working for money. They're trading their time to earn a check or
right.
you know, whatever it is. And this guy had actually beat out of the rat race. And he was just doing this thing because he loved it. He also loved empowering other people, right? So anyways, it was just a really cool experience. He had a very positive influence on my life. And from there, I just kept going and meeting more people. And then I actually started buying homes. So at like, I don't even know, at 21, 22, I had a couple buddies, and we ended up buying 3 properties. 2 were out in Florida, and 1 was in Detroit, right?
What made you go out of state like that?
So
That was the move at that time.
what's that?
That was the move at that time.
That was the move at that time.
I mean, I went to Texas with a couple people.
Yeah.
You were out. I remember that, yeah.
So here's the deal. This is, again, I'm naive, right? Like, some people don't like sharing this, or they're like, hey, man, you might not want to share that part of the story. And it's like, no, this is part of my story.
Right, yeah.
This is the story.
And you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So, what was that movie? That great movie that talked about The Big Short.
Big Short. I was gonna
So
say.
you remember when they went out to Florida and they saw these developments?
Yep.
So basically, one of my friends, and he was definitely like, at that time, he was the mastermind, right? So at this point, I'm 20, 21, 22, I'm somewhere in there. It's before 08. We're buying homes like 06, 07. And this dude was probably 28, 29. He was living in Pleasanton. I don't know if you remember Anto.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. So Anto was the man, right? This dude was the man. And he had worked out a deal with this builder out in Florida. So if we bought a home from him, he would give us a kickback. Might have been illegal. I didn't know this at the time. I was just like, cool, money's exchanging hands, right?
Right.
So we were buying homes. We bought these 2 homes in Florida, rented them out, and we got this large kickback. It was a very exciting time. Again, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Right.
I have no business being in this business, right? But everybody's doing it, so it just sounded like, yeah, this is what we
Should
do.
be fine.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm wearing a shirt with a collar. Like, I think I'm making business decisions. You know, it makes sense. So we did that, and then shortly thereafter, everything busted, right? But we had some money. We started investing in stocks, right? And this was around the time, but we didn't just invest in stocks. We invested in options. And so so we invested in options, and this is right when iPhone 2 came out, and we went in heavy on Apple. And we lost damn near everything, right? At that same time, what ended up happening was I had borrowed money from my best friend's dad, right? There was all kinds of crazy shit going on, but basically I borrowed money from my best friend's dad, and I was using that as an investment. He knew everything that was going on, and we lost all of it, right? It sucked and hurt losing all this money again. Like, and now to fast forward, just so we're all caught up. Like, Lehman Brothers is happening, all the shit is hitting the fan, right? Florida's a bust. We're not paying our mortgage. Like, everything seems like it's kind of tumbling down.
Right.
So we had like a year or two where we popped.
Yeah.
Right. And then we had this huge left hook served to us because none of us knew what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
Right. And we kind of were learning in real time with the rest of the world. But now I had an obligation to my best friend's dad.
Right.
And I was like, I can't let this guy down.
Yeah.
How much money did you?
So it was 10 grand. It was 10 grand, borrowed 10 grand. And, man, it was me and Jay.
Yeah.
So it was me and Jay.
And at that time, though, 10 grand, you know,
it was something.
it's still a
It
good
was-
amount
it
of
was
money
something.
right now. But I'm just saying, it's when you're that and you have to owe that back.
But well, and at the time,
It's
too,
not even
we
a
had,
dollar.
We had an account that had multiples of that.
Yeah.
And that all just dried
It's
out.
gone.
It was gone. And so,
But wait.
you know, yeah. But, so there was just this level of, well, there wasn't even a level. We had a conversation. Me, Jay, and his pops had a conversation, and I'll never forget the disappointment that he had. And I was like, man, this shit ain't right. So I ended up going. I was like, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go back to serving, and I'll do it at nighttime, and I'm gonna keep following my passion. I know that there's something here, right? Like I had made 6 figures. I had done this thing in a short span of time with no college education. So the proof of concept was down. I had earned it. I knew that there was something real here. Right.
Like I heard this thing, like talent and hard work and even education will always be trumped by the market.
It's true.
Like it doesn't matter how good you are, whatever product you put out, you will always be trumped by the market if that happens.
Yeah, I would say it's
Yeah.
very true for that period of time.
Right.
Wait, so how were you making your money during that time? Because you said you only bought like 3 properties in.
So I bought 3 properties. We had them rented out, and we were making a lot of money actually on the options. So
I
we
see.
had
Okay, I see,
we
I
had
see.
several months where we were positive.
I see.
And so we do like distribution Fridays,
Right,
you know, and it was just a great time. At this point, I think I was living in Discovery Bay, at the time with my buddies. Anyways, just a great time that I do smile on. But if I really think about it, I probably should be crying because there was so much terrible things also happening at the same point.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, 100%. To kind of fast forward though, so I went to Elephant Bar, started working there at nights. And during
Great
the
Elephant Bar,
day-
by the way. Is that the one in Concord?
That was Dublin.
Oh, Dublin.
Yeah, that was Dublin. So we were working out of Pleasanton at
I
this
see.
point, right? And so started working over there, and that just had multiple blessings in itself. People I met my wife there. Everything just, it's funny how things happen, right? Like when things happen or fall apart, it seems messy, but there's always good that comes from
It's peaks and valleys, man.
Yep.
You fall from the top, you hit the bottom, and then it's like, we're only going to go up. Something good's going to happen.
Something good's got to happen,
Yeah.
right? So from like 2008 to 2010, it was just a period of me trying to go back to the drawing board and figure out where do I go from here.
Right.
And so during that time, I read every book I could get my hands on. I swear to God, like I've still got this huge library. I got notes in all these books. I read every Robert Kiyosaki book that there is. I read, anything you can think of that had to do with real estate. I was reading it. I was going to seminars. I was still trying to plug in with people. I was still very hungry for this. Funny enough, I met a dude. So I started bartending at Elephant Bar. One of the guys that would always come in and sit at the bar. We started chopping it up, built a relationship. And basically he was like, man, why don't you buy something out here? Now, let me just hit pause real quick. I had just had to actually file for bankruptcy. So I filed for bankruptcy in 2009, right? When we were walking away from the homes and everything like that. Filed for bankruptcy in 2009. I was like, dude, there's no way I can buy a house. And he was like, well, do you have anybody that you can? Well, my mother is like 800 plus FICO score, not a risk taker at all. Had the one home that she's always owned. I still had a couple bucks lined up from back when we were doing everything. He got in my ear about that, so I approached my mom, and at this point, I was like, if we got something in Antioch, these homes, they cost less to buy than they do to build. Like at a certain point, like
Is that like in the Dallas Ranch area? Like,
no, man. So this is over off of East Medill.
okay.
On so you get off on what, Lone Tree, A Street.
A Street,
Yeah,
make a
right there by
left.
Jack in the Box.
Yep.
So
Did I grew up? I was my first house when I was a child.
Really?
on Medill,
Medill, East Medill.
I think I remember you telling me
9
that.
months.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, man.
We're all, I was Silvercrest, in Antioch, right by Black Diamond.
Oh shit, yeah.
That's where
You're
I-
an Antioch guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where that was my first house.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Okay.
Yep.
Brings out the best people.
Hey,
Right.
Morris Drew. I mean, a lot of us.
So anyways, we ended up talking to her, she used her credit. I brought in the money, and we bought our very first home in 2010. It was a 3-bed, 1-bath, 900 square foot spot for like 120 grand, right? It already had a tenant in it, and it was cash flowing like 550 bucks a month. And I was on fire. I was like, are you kidding me? Mom, we made it.
Yeah.
Right?
We won. Yeah.
But the thing is, and she was kind of laughing too. She was, and she's like one of my biggest cheerleaders, man. She's an angel for me. We partnered up on this, and the thought was, hey, if we can do enough of these, like we can supplement your retirement, right? And for me, I was like, I had a goal in mind. I was like, I want to get to this monthly income that's passive, right? The biggest thing that I learned during that 2005, 2006 to 2010 era from experience, from people, and from these books that I was reading, is if people understood like how powerful passive income was, they would stop everything that they're doing to learn how to get it, right? And so to build up passive income, which is just money while you sleep, right? You do something one time and you just get paid over and over and over again for it. It's just, we're not taught like that. We're taught we trade time for money, right? And
right.
if you can sell something of a higher value, you can make more money, or whatever the case might be. But if you can actually earn passive income and get to the point where you are like Rob Burton, who I was mentioning, who had so much coming in, it took care of all of his monthly debt, took care of all of his liabilities, and he had enough to live comfortably, like that's it.
It's American dream, man.
That's it. And so I got the proof of concept by that one house. And so that one house ended up, to fast forward, turned into like 5.
Wow.
But the problem was, and so now we were making a couple bucks a month. It was, nothing crazy, but each deal got better.
And you were buying all these through your mom's name?
So, so here's what happened. So we bought a second house through my mom's name.
And you weren't on paper at all. You were just.
I wasn't on paper at all.
And you were just
we had a little JV agreement, but
you
I
were
was
just
on
bringing.
title. I was
So
on
you were
title.
putting a agreement together outside of the deal.
Outside of title. So
Outside of title,
yeah,
right?
So my name wasn't on
but
title.
her name was on the title.
Her name was on title.
And you bring in the money, separate agreement, and you
Yep.
bought your first how many properties like that? Or
I don't exactly remember, but
Yeah.
the way, here's the way that I do remember the first few. So her and I bought the first 2. The third one, and this is also like, dude, like foreclosure. Like I was buying shit off the MLS all day. Like
Yeah.
the MLS is where you went to find
Right.
a deal, right?
Right.
So the third one, my girl bought. So she bought it, and so basically, but we still brought my mom in as half. It was this whole thing. And then the realtor who I met at the bar, he saw what I was doing, and like the whole time I'm playing team. I'm like taking care of mom, taking care of I got people that I want to include in this thing. And the whole time I did not have a plan on how I was going to scale. I just knew I would figure it out.
Yeah.
Just acquiring.
Right.
I'm just
You're just
acquiring
eating everything up.
So on the 4th and 5th one, the 4th and 5th property, my realtor actually got these listings. So the dude who I met at the bar was like, man, I've got
Elephant
this.
Bar.
Yeah, I've got this deal in Richmond. And he was like, it's a crazy deal. He was like, man, it's funny, I'm being taped right now. There's certain shit that, I'm just gonna fast forward. Basically,
It's not live, dude. So if you say, we'll edit it out.
Yeah.
Statute of limitations, or
Right? That's what I was actually wondering. So, long story short, we were able to work out some deals on the 4th and 5th one, and we brought my realtor was like, I want to do this for my mom. So him and his mom partnered up, and then we all JV'd. We got a little LLC, right? My mom and me, him and his mom, we all joined partnerships. We picked up a few more properties that way. Then that happened. Then my brother-in-law, he's like, man, I see what you're doing. I want to get on this. He's got great credit. He's an engineer, Silicon Valley, makes great income. And at this point, now I got a little experience on me. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I need you to go ahead and put your name on it. And I need you to also bring in some money. And so I was able to get, 7 or 8 homes during that time this way, right? Now, just to hit pause real quick, this is over a few years.
yeah. So what year is it now? Like,
So this is probably like 2014.
because you started like 9.
I started 2010. So
Yeah.
like when I actually first got the first one, it was 2010. And I think I picked up took me about 4 years to pick up 7 homes. It was something like that, right? During that time as well, part of my story was I was thinking, how am I going to scale? How can I bring in more value? How can I make more money? And so what I ended up finding out was one of my friends was a respiratory therapist, right? And so basically it's 2 years of schooling. I mean, the bullet points that I took away from the conversation him and I had, it's 2 years of schooling. You can get out and you can make about $100,000 a year. And I was like, and you only work 3 days a week. That was a big kicker. So I was like, well, fuck it. I'm doing that then. So I signed up for school, went back to school for this 2-year program, excelled at it. You know, I was like, I'm going to take this thing hella serious because it wasn't about wanting to be a respiratory guy.
Right.
It was, I want to be a real estate guy. And this is just my weird fucked up story on my journey on how I'm going to get there. Right.
Yeah.
So my story, I wouldn't really share it with too many people because people be like, what the fuck is up with this dude? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But again, to keep in mind, at this point, I got no education. I'm working for tips. You know what I mean? My only other outlet was I could sell drugs. Like,
Right.
It was, how am I going to bring in more money?
Yeah.
So I'm doing that. I went to school and
what was your passive income during that, like,
so I
from
had,
the properties, from the 7 properties?
So we would not spend $1 from those properties. So every dollar of cash flow would be saved, housed, and then as we got more, you know, at 7, you know, we were probably making around $4,000 a month, something like that, plus or minus in cash flow. And so all that money would accumulate. Also, my living expenses were extremely low. You know, I was riding around like the
Honda, dude.
Accord, bro. You know
still
what I mean?
have the Honda Accord.
I kept all my expenses super low. I was renting a room. Here's a funny thing. I own 7 houses, and I rented a room. My girl and I rented a room at her parents' house. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So most motherfuckers would go out, get their own apartment. I could have afforded to do that, but I also knew, no, that's going to tear on my DTI.
Right.
I could have gone out, got a new car, but I was like, that's going to eat up my DTI. So the biggest lesson, I guess, if I'm trying to wrap this up, I feel like I've been talking forever. So
It's amazing.
the biggest lesson that I had is I was super clear on what I wanted. And what I wanted was I wanted $10,000 a month of passive income. That was my goal. I was like, I got to get to $10K a month passive, whether I work, whether I sleep, whether I vacation. $10K needs to come to my account each month, and I don't want to do shit for it. And so I did everything that I could do to make sure that my expenses remained low, because every dollar that came into me, I felt a sense of responsibility. It's almost that Warren Buffett idea where it's like, if I spend this dollar, I just cost myself $100 in the future of what that dollar could have earned.
Right.
And so everything that I had coming into me, I was just very conscientious of what I was doing with it and how I was going to use it. And so to kind of answer the question, that's the money from the tips, from the passive income. And then at this point, I'm also partnering up with people. So that's how I was able to scale a little bit during those times because they were now bringing in funds. So went respiratory school, still worked at the bar at nighttime, still doing real estate transactions, trying to, like, you know, be a part of this whole thing. Got out, got a job as an RT. I went to the hospital that paid the most money in the Bay Area, got a job there, and I told myself, and I swear to God, I said, I'm going to do this for 5 years. If I've done this over 5 years, I have failed myself. Got that job in 2013. I quit in 2018, right? I was able to hit that goal by that time. And so my income went up, my credit got better, and I was able to start buying houses again myself.
Did you buy during that time as well, or are you still at that
Absolutely.
7 house?
No.
Still
Yeah,
buying.
I bought. I think by the time I left the hospital, I think I had got up to like 25
I think you were like,
doors.
I think it was like 25 because
Yeah.
when we rolled a lot of their stuff over eventually at that time it was like 20. It was like upper 20s.
Yeah. So I had and when I quit the job, it was because I finally hit my mark. Right.
that
So
10,000,
so
10,000
I hit the 10K in 2018, and I was like, man, I've made it. Like, fucking cool, done. I'm out of here. So I left the job, and that was a weird thing because I had this W-2, you know, got a family going on. I have things happening.
I mean, you were working it. You were like, I got a way where I'm going to work like 1 or 2 days a month.
Yeah, so
like you were working it.
Well, and because it's union over there too, I was like, I'm gonna just go down to like 1 day a month just in case this shit fails on me, right?
I still got the health care. Like, I'm good.
Yeah. So, but then it just got to the point where it's just like, this is pointless, and it's actually taking more from me. It's taking more from my time of what I could really be doing. So, and I'm sorry I keep bouncing around, but to kind of rewind real quick, another big thing that happened for me while I was working was in 2015, you and I and a few other people, we were at Modern China, right? It was on a Saturday.
Great time.
And Ted and Chris came through.
That's right.
And so I met a guy who had another big influence on me. So at this time, I'm just doing rentals, right? And I thought flips were risky given some of the shit I had experienced back before the crash. So I only wanted to buy rentals. I only wanted to rent out through Section 8. I only wanted guaranteed income. That was all I was doing.
So you were doing only Section 8 with all
Only
this?
Section 8. Only Section 8 or disability or Social Security. Any consistent stream of income.
Like, I know
because
I
if
guarantee
people,
got that half.
Yeah, because if people start losing jobs again,
Yeah.
I'm not going to put myself in the situation that I saw happen to
Right.
myself and other people previously. So I was only going for guarantees, and flips to me at the time didn't seem like guarantees. And I'd also read this book called The One Thing, right? Gary Keller. And the whole thing talks about, people getting on the shiny object syndrome. And so they start getting good at something, and before they can actually master it, they kind of branch off and start doing something else. And what he did and how he built up Keller Williams is he focused in on this one thing, and he became the master of it. They got one of the greatest, if still not the greatest, sales training programs all around, right? I mean, granted, there's Compass and shit like that now, and right,
Yeah.
Everybody, but Keller Williams, everybody knows that name throughout the country.
Right.
And he did that on this one thing, and that book had a huge impact on me because at that time there were a lot of talk about, oh, you could do flips, or oh, what if you built, or oh, what if you did X, Y, and Z. And I just had to realize my one thing is passive income. The thing I want is this $10K a month. The way I'm going to get that is through rentals, and so that's all I did. I don't want to say I'd mastered it, but I gotten really good at it around 2015. I met Chris. Chris flipped. So he didn't do rentals, but he
Music?
just flipped. Yeah. So music. So him and I, man, it was one of the funniest experiences. So I had messed my back up hella bad, right? And we go out, we drink. I think I was on some Vicodin or something that the doctor had prescribed for my back.
Yeah.
And I completely forgot about it. Right? I forgot I was taking it. And so I'm drinking like I normally drink. And I met this dude, and I'm super interested in him. I'm like, okay, so you flip. He had done a few flips at the time I had met him. I had a few rentals by the time he had met me. And so we're just like vibing.
Right.
And at a certain point, bro, I just went off the cliff, right? And so it was a bad night. It was a bad night. I mean, I think I had a great time, but I think I made other people's lives miserable on this night. So it was hilarious. The next day, I'm driving into work, and I'm still like, shit, like I'm like sweating. Yeah. I'm not feeling right. I'm driving into work. I call Buddy Lee, and I was like, hey, what's up, bro? And he's just hella mad, right? And he's like, oh, well, hello. And I was like, hey, dude, last night, I was like, got a little wild. He was like, you got a little wild. I said, hey, was Chris there for that? Because I had just met this guy. I'm trying to impress this guy. I'm trying to impress this guy. And I swear to God, I'll never forget Dave going, he saw everything. And I was like, fuck. All right. I was like, I gotta work some magic. So I call music up. I'm like, hey, bro, I want to apologize about last night. He's like, for what, man? He was like, my boys and I do that shit all the time. And I was like, I like this guy.
Like, that was fun.
Yeah, so we hit it off, and basically after that moment, I started hanging out with him a lot. I was like, man, I want to see what you got going on. So I started going around with him to some of his flips. I saw what he was doing. It was super impressive. It intrigued me greatly. I realized, I was like, I've got the elements that I'm doing this in a different
all the
capacity.
tools.
I've got the workers. I've got people that got the money. I've got all these things. So I'm just picking his brain, and I wanted to see how it works. So I actually, I ended up investing with him on a couple projects. Those projects went very well. And I started realizing, that, man, like I think on the first deal that I did with him, it was only like 4 months. I think I gave him like, I kind of hate talking numbers, but I gave him something, and then I got that plus 50% return in like 4 months.
Nice.
And when I was mapping that out to what I would have done in cash flow, I'm like, man, this would have taken me a long time
right.
to have earned that in cash flow. And at that moment, the light bulb went off, and I was like, this is how I'm going to scale. And so what I did I would say what I did up until probably 6 to 9 months ago, I was flipping homes. I started flipping homes, and the profits that I got, I was using damn near the same philosophy of when I was like working, getting tips and shit like that. The money I would make, I would just go buy a rental.
Right.
So I flip a home, and I would
rental,
instantly
I
have
see.
enough for a down payment on a rental. And so I just kept doing that. Jumped out to Texas for a minute. I bought a bunch of doors out in Texas. Cash flow wasn't all great out there. I ended up selling those off, brought all the money back out here to the East Bay. And so I just kept acquiring rentals, kept doing flips. And so that's kind of what has brought me up to where I'm at today. So, now we got all the rentals going. I'm still doing rentals. I'm leaning in tough right now on rentals as well. I've kind of taken my foot off the gas on flips. Just the market got a little crazy for me in Q3, Q4 last year, and we took a couple losses on some flips that we were doing. So I've got a couple flips going on right now. I've got these 2 development projects, and I'm just trying to grab as much cash flow as I can on rentals.
So some things that I was taking note while you were telling your backstory is main things that stick out for success, and I think this is something that everybody that listens and anybody that wants to be successful in anything in life. First thing that you were talking about is you ask questions. You were asking questions to each person along the way that you met that you saw was doing something that you wanted to get into, right?
Yep.
You were asking questions.
Informational interview.
Yeah, you're doing an informational interview, right? Who said that on our podcast?
That's Henry.
That was Henry, the last one. Yeah, so he does informational interviews, basically with sitting down with people. You're getting the knowledge from somebody. Okay, you're doing something that I see is successful. Boom, you're asking the questions, getting the knowledge. Then you had the tenacity to have goals. You had goals and parameters set in your mind. Like, if I do this, no, I'm not touching this money. I'm not touching this money, and then I'm going to put it here. So you had an outline of like, okay, this is how I can be successful. And then my favorite thing is just the fucking pure grit to not fucking quit. Like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be in real estate, but I'm going to go over here, make money so I can add it into fucking real estate. And that's like, if anything, if you gain the knowledge, whatever you're doing, ask questions, put yourself around somebody that's maybe done it before you, fucking have an outline of how you're going to get there, and you see your future self doing that, and then just never fucking quit, you're not going to fucking fail at anything.
Because a lot of people in theory, right, probably would have, I mean, they land a job making 100 to 150 a year, right?
Like, I'm good.
Respiratory therapist, 3 to 4 days a week,
Right.
very easy schedule. That might have been like the cap. That might have been like, oh, I did well. I don't even need to go back into real estate where I might have either lost my ass or I felt, you just were like, this is still the vehicle. Like, this is only
You had the
a
fucking
matter of time.
and you had that vision. You had that fucking tunnel vision of, this is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm going to do. I'll do anything else on the side. I'll go get a fucking waiter job. I'll go to school for 2 years and get a respiratory fucking,
Right, yeah.
certificate to go do this in a hospital. Make great money. Like you said, some people be like,
Some
oh,
people would've just
this is
stopped.
good. This is great right here. I got a bunch of properties. You're like, nah, that ain't it. That ain't it, chief. And then you just kept networking. Networking is another thing that you did.
Yeah.
Putting yourself in rooms, gaining more knowledge from music, right? Oh, fuck, I got all this bread and these properties. This is that next level up. You're just continuing to fucking climb. Now we're sitting in here where you're developing shit. It's like,
And so
you don't seem like a person that's going to stop. So I'm excited to see what the fuck is next. Like, what else are you going to do?
I definitely appreciate that. And just so this is the first development project I've done. I mean, I definitely stepped outside of the comfort zone. And
Right.
To your point, though, it's building up those habits of networking, of asking questions. And so the only reason I am even, that we're all sitting here right now,
Right.
is because I had built a relationship up with another guy who's a hard money lender, who's pretty big out here in the East Bay. Him and I developed a great relationship. There's a lot of trust there. And when this thing came up, it was like, can we do this? Because he's done it before. And because we've earned that trust, we've earned that relationship, we partnered up. And now I'm doing things with just this, with a guy that I used to be like, man, it'd be so cool to work with this guy.
Right.
And so now I've been working with him for a couple of years. Well, overall, probably 5-6 years. But on this project, we've been doing this for like 2 years. And now he's introducing me to his network. And so we've got a builder who's going to build 3 more homes with us over here on these lots. And so it's crazy how things just keep going. And again, I couldn't have mapped this out from the beginning,
It's fucking inspiring,
right?
dude.
But it's just, as long as you just keep going, you don't quit, you do those things, and also, you do good business.
I'll say, and be a good dude just from this conversation. That's the main thing. That's why people wanted to keep coming around, keep working with you. You're a fucking good dude.
Not only that, just like your willingness to take risks, because I feel like as you keep going and as you keep meeting people, when the opportunities get put in front of you, you have to be able to like look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I'm just gonna do it. You know what I mean? Because like you could have, everyone in theory wants to be a real estate investor. They want to flip.
Everyone.
They want to do stuff like that. But when it comes to taking that 10 grand that you earned or that 20 grand that you earned bartending at, Elephant Bar, to be able to take that money and go throw it down on something, a lot of people are scared to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I don't think, maybe it doesn't change even if you're working with, the first house where you bought the 3-bedroom, 1-bath house in Antioch. that you're putting the minimal amount down is probably still a very similar feeling to buying this property that has, what is this in? How big is this lot?
2.5 acres.
2.5 acres. Buying this, you know, it's still, the risk factor still feels similar, I would assume.
To an extent, it's there's risk in everything we do, right? But then there's certain things that you can put into place to reduce that risk, right? So you get into a car. We all know more deaths happen in car accidents every year than pretty much anything else. But you can wear your seatbelt, right? That reduces your risk. You can make sure that your mirrors are pointed the right way, right? That reduces risk. So you can put certain things in. You can't eliminate the risk. The risk is always going to be there.
Right.
But you can put up certain safeguards to reduce it as much as possible.
Nullify it, yeah.
And so, you know, when I was doing the rentals, the Section 8, the Social Security, only putting tenants in that had guaranteed income, that was a way I reduced my risk. So I didn't see it as risky.
Genius.
Right?
Yeah.
This thing, I will tell you, I've lost some sleep on this thing. This thing is definitely a little bit more risky, but partnering up with a guy who's done it before, less risky.
Right.
Right? He's been through it before. So, of course, I'd give up equity to be with a guy like that, right? It's an earn while you learn concept. And so we're 50-50. And, you know, I found the deal, but this guy brought in the network. He brought in the, you know, money. I mean, there's so much value that this guy brought in, and I wouldn't have been able to do this alone. So I think it's a matter of the funny thing in real estate, there's so much ego, there's so much pride. Everybody wants to show their money. Everybody has this concept of, you know, they want to be it. And we do that through flashiness. I've learned that the guys that are really killing it out here usually aren't those guys. They're not the guys talking about numbers. They're not the guys talking about, look at me, look what I did. They show up and they show out with what they have done. They just keep producing and doing that thing. I think that is a huge key in remaining humble and not being like that. You're able to attract some of the people that are actually doing the big things to be able to kind of hang out with a guy like this. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Yeah, well, being partners with the guy, having 50% of something is better than having 100% of nothing.
Of nothing.
You know?
And there's also guys that they'll say, oh, I want to take the lion's share. I want this.
Yeah.
And they try to get greedy. They try to cut out people on certain equity. And again, it just goes to pride. They want 51-49 split. It's like, bro, just give. I've seen some weird transactions, and there's no reason.
Just for pride.
There's no monetary value in it. It's just for pride.
Yeah.
And like deals get killed that way, you know?
Just for them to walk around, it's like, yeah, I own this.
Yep.
This is actually mine. It's 51% of mine.
Yeah.
It's
49,
not
he don't
only-
make the decisions.
Right, exactly.
It's not only that, it's just like people don't fully understand the concepts that are needed to grow and scale. There's a lot of people that aren't willing to partner up with people because they want to say like that it's theirs, right? Like for you to buy your first 7 properties in other people's names, like there's a lot of people that aren't willing to do that.
Right.
Because they want to say, oh, this is my house, I bought it, it's in my name, etc. Right? To be able to have the foresight to be like, I don't care if it's in my name or not. I know that I'm the one that's like curating this whole thing. I don't care if I have to use my brother, sister, you know, whoever it is that, you know, I need to use to be able to create it. And I don't mind sharing some of the equity, like you said, to be able to grow and scale. Like there's not a lot of people that are willing to do that.
And it's like the person that we all know and love and, you know, we have everything in our pocket, that is him. Fucking Steve Jobs owned 1% in the end of like Apple, then when it was like a multi-billion dollar company, you know, it's like that guy's doing it like,
Right.
what do we do?
Success leaves clues.
Yeah.
Right? Success leaves clues.
Follow the guy's footsteps, you know, bring in a whole team where you make billions of dollars, you get 1% of it. It's going to be way better than you making 30 grand of 100%, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
So
I tell people all the time, it's not always about making the most out of every single deal. It's about making something out of every deal and learning and being able to grow and scale.
and then go to the fucking next deal. I mean, in real estate, right? It's like, if you've never listed a house, right, and you're going to fall face first on your face and you suck and you don't know, why not bring on somebody that you could co-list with to get the experience, share a little bit of, you know, share your commission, and then learn, and then maybe do it again like that, do it again until you can fly on your own. You know, it's like not being super greedy. I do that myself. I've done that with James. You know, I'm like, I need to learn. I came into the office before I even started even got my license, and I was sitting there just in every room, every meeting, every phone call, fucking bringing in clients before I even had my license because I was just soaking game, and I just like, okay, I am a realtor.
Right.
And then the world was like, oh, Blaine's a realtor. I was like, I got to pass this test, but
Right,
you know,
right.
but I'm bringing in clients to the company, like, you know, straight up.
At that point, though, you were. Like,
Yeah.
I remember hearing it said the greatest sale anyone will ever make is the sale they make on themselves.
Right.
Right. And so when I told myself I am a real estate investor, I would be lying if I told you guys I actually believed it. It took me years to actually, like, especially when I was like working as an RT. You know what I mean? Like, nothing made sense. Like, my whole life, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm in scrubs. I'm like, I'm a real estate investor. Like, no, you aren't. Like, who the fuck is this guy, right? But I always viewed myself that way. And I knew that I just needed time to catch up with me. And it's the same thing with you. Like, the only variable is time.
Right.
Like, once you sell yourself on this thing and you're like, I'm going to become this person, the only thing left is just enough time.
Well, how is anybody ever going to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself?
Absolutely.
Well, and it might not have been sexy, right? Like, you know, being an RT and just doing those things, and you know you own, like, you might show up to the job and no one knows that you own a
Absolutely,
bunch of property,
yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
But you do, you know what I mean? And it's not sexy because you know that you still have to reduce your risk, right? By being able to go and still make money, even though you have, you know, a bunch of, you know, some people own one or two properties and they feel like they've made it,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And in their world, they have.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
everything's subjective. Like,
Right,
you know, it's all relative to whatever your goal
Yeah,
is.
and your happiness. Like, if you're happy
Yeah.
with, great.
Yeah.
Let me
Unfortunately,
ask you. Sorry to cut you off,
No,
but
you're
let me
good.
ask you kind of like where you're at now, right? Like, there's a lot of people that probably look up to you that see you as, you know, because people that we talk to, and like you said before we started, is, you know, nothing really gets you going other than talking about like real estate investing and how to start and how to scale and how to get going. You're super passionate about that ever since I met you, like, and I've always viewed you as a real estate investor, right? Because even when I remember one of the times we ran into each other like in front of 24 in the mall, and you were like, I was like, oh, what are you doing? He's like, oh, bro, I got to go to this class because I got my RT thing. I was like, oh, really? You doing RT? He's like, yeah, bro, you make $100,000. I'm about to do this, but I'm only doing it to buy property. Like, that was your sale.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I remember that. And then I was like, okay, we've always viewed you, and I say we as like our whole entire group, right? And we've always viewed you as a real estate investor. And you were sitting in your house that you're developing now. I've seen you scale. I don't know how many properties you probably bought and sold in your past. I mean, what would you say?
Roundabout.
If you had to put a number on it,
I mean, over 100.
Easily over 100, right? And whatever amount, I mean, you've probably taken losses.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
And we talk, I'm jumping back and forth, but we're talking about Jay's dad and a $10,000 loss at that time.
Right.
Like, a $10,000 loss today is like, oh, that's fine. Put the bathroom in. Not a big deal, right?
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's not about the money, but what's some of the losses you've taken where you either had to go like, whoa, I don't need a dollar amount, but just what did you learn in those losses? What at that time was it more market? Because I think in this environment that we're in, the market that we're in, if we're talking about just real estate or even actually any industry right now, but people are going through a lot of questions in their head. Mm-hmm. Am I going to do this? Am I going to be around next year? Is it worth it? Do I need to go get a more secure job? How do I hedge my bet against myself?
Yep.
You know, and am I selling myself that, you know, or am I just acting like I'm this person, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's the current climate right now, and there's a lot of gut checking going on, right? I'm sure as an investor, you've had to do that for the course of your real estate career now is what, 18 years almost? If you really had to put a number on it, 15 years? Somewhere around there?
Yeah. So
I mean, if we really look at the time,
2005,
2005,
I'd say yes.
17 years. We're coming up on 17, 18 years.
I got involved. I mean, again, I got involved doing loans, but
But
investing,
the tip of the iceberg was 2005-ish, right?
yeah, 2005,
Somewhere around there.
2006,
So
around there, yep.
what I'm getting at is like, as you've experienced loss and markets do trump you, you know, because you saw the 2008 happen, you lived through that. You actually timed it almost perfectly and got homes for $100,000 a piece, right? And all of a sudden now you're in another market where it's showing signs of scarcity of just transaction volume. For you, that halts how you buy, but how have you kind of worked through this loss right now? Like, either you're taking L's on a money or you're taking L's on not getting as many deals. So the volume's down, so your revenue's down or whatever it is. But how are you going through that as an investor with this much experience?
So to answer, I think the question is, first off, I have taken losses in every phase of my career.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't view losses as failures, like, or at least not in a defining sense. Like, yes, I have failed, right, several times, but it just has made me better.
Yeah.
And so
Lessons.
I feel like it's law of averages as well. So it's like when I fail, I'm like, okay, cool, let's soak up the lessons that we can, right? And you can't soak up all the lessons. 6 months later, I'll be thinking about something, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, you know what I mean? But like, I've gotten a better read on people, you know, like, I've gotten a better read on people. I've gotten a better read on myself. I've definitely, one of the biggest things I've learned through failures has been my own emotional discipline. It's very easy to get emotionally wrapped up in choices when there's so much money on the line, right? And so much money is always relative to where you're at that point in your life. And having a high EQ will serve you very well in all areas of life. But that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned. To answer specifically, so 2022, right? Let's talk about this, guys. People don't always like talking about failures. I'm gonna sit here and talk about this right now. If you were to look at every year I write out like what I want accomplished by the end of the year, what I'm about to do, right? 2022 was titled the year I fuck shit up, right? Like, I'm about to just come in, I'm taking heads, right? All that happens, I got knocked the fuck out, right?
My head got sick.
So Q1, Q2, killed it,
Yeah.
right? I want to say, I think at the height, and here's the craziest thing, this was also the year, like, I was scaling. So I actually started to I was doing the most flips I had ever done at one point. I was running like 4 or 5 GC crews, and my days consisted, like, I had to actually start scheduling out time in hours, which I've never done. But I was all over the Bay Area. We had flips going on in San Francisco, down to San Jose, all over the East Bay. I'm just running, right? Constantly in my car, having to make calls while I'm in my car, trying to just rack all this stuff together. But I had this projection that, by my account, at where I was at in my life at that time, was wild. I was like, when this pays off, right? Like, I'm gonna be with Musk on the moon. Like, we're going, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, none of these things happened. So, and it's all good, right? Like, don't get me wrong. I got a bucket of tears.
And when you say not happen because of market conditions, or is it more just
so, like,
it's a lot of it, right?
Rates started to rise.
Yeah.
And I think what happened was we started to experience all these neighbors that weren't selling their home all of a sudden started to see the ship of equity get out of reach, leaving the shore. And they were like, oh shit. So all of a sudden, you know, I had homes in these super highly desirable neighborhoods where a previous sale hadn't taken place for like 3 to 4 months. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh man, as soon as we go on, I remember when I bought a home in the Oakland Hills, the realtor that I was using was like, I've had 3 people that apparently were just searching, and it was an off-market transaction. They saw that this was sold. They were hoping it was to a flipper, and they're already trying to write an offer for when you're ready. Like, it was just wild.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, we're about to make a killing.
Yeah. Right.
And then by the time, so a lot of these cities as well, they were still kind of coming back from like the COVID and work from home. And so permit processes were taking a very long time. Looking back, I wish I would not have permitted anything. Right?
Yeah.
And I will say that on the record.
Yeah.
Permits fucked me up.
Right.
Because I could have got a job done in
Or just don't do permitted work. Or I mean, don't even try attempt it. Just
don't even do it, and then
it.
just yeah. So, anyways, like an 8 to 10 week job ended up taking me on a few of these bigger ones, like damn near 6 months, because I had to get plans, I had to go through building and planning. Inspectors would come on out, they'd call for something. All of a sudden, I'm having to bring in an engineer. Before you know it, it's 6 months later.
Yeah, your holding
market
cost is fucking
shifted.
Yeah.
But the cool thing was, if I'm being honest with you, a lot of the times it would actually work out. Holding costs is always a big thing, right?
Right.
So I try to be in and out of a project between 4 to 6 months.
Right.
But what would happen when these things would take place and I would be delayed? The market had gone up more, and it would always end up serving me.
Sure.
And I'd be like, "This is nuts!" Like, but obviously, like,
just
I
get more
can't go
in,
in to it initially with that
Mindset.
mindset,
Yeah.
because that's a cherry on top mindset.
Yeah.
That's literally the mindset people had in 08.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, if I buy this home today
Super
at market
wishful
value,
thinking.
it'll be $100,000 more next year."
Yeah.
All that's bullshit. That's all wishful thinking. Doesn't work out. I always bought it as I bought a home today, and I only use comps that were as recent as possible, and then I would even discount it usually a little bit. So like my offer was always low, my projected value was always a little bit lower than what I actually thought I could get, and it would work out very well because it'd always be, not always, but more often than not, I would be very surprised by the offer I would get, and I'd be thrilled. And so we had a great run until Q3, Q4 of last year, and man, I lost multiple six figures, and I'm not talking about equity. I'm talking about of my own money that I'd earned previously, right? And so all those dreams, I look back on it, and I was having a conversation the other day. I was like, man, you would have thought I smoked meth and wrote up these dreams.
This list?
Yeah.
What was the list called?
Of I'm gonna fuck shit up. Yeah. And so you would have been like, dude, what were you thinking? Like, no, you can't ever do that. You know what I mean?
You gotta have those fucking thoughts, man.
Well, here's the thing. So like now here we are of April this year, and I will also say I get frustrated.
Yeah.
As of right now, I hear about the open houses and how all these people are coming in. I'm hearing about multiple offers.
Yeah.
Man, fuck all you guys. Like, where were you guys at
Right,
just a few months ago? You know what I mean?
Literally.
Dude, I was running some numbers, and I shouldn't have done this. I just had like a few minutes, and I was like, it was late night, and like on my phone, and I'm like, had I just waited, the holding cost, I would have actually popped based on this. You know what I mean? You can't do that because it'll always eat you alive.
Right.
Yeah.
But it goes back to the law of averages. I took significant losses last year.
Yeah.
So what I have done moving forward is I have changed my strategy. So as of right now today, I only have 2 flips going on, right? Where like this time
This
last
is
year.
considered a flip?
This is a development. So this is a development. So I've got 2 flips where I'm just like, I'm fixing them up. I'm gonna sell them.
Right.
I'm hoping to make money, but shit, I don't know. I could lose money on that.
Right.
I don't. At this point, literally, my answer is
You gotta
like,
get out the books.
people are like, oh, what do you think you're gonna make on it? I'm like, dude, I have no idea. Like,
Yeah.
just like pray for me. You know what I mean? Like, I hope we're all right. I've got a couple development deals. The big thing I'm doing, so I'm going through all my rentals right now, and I'm building ADUs. So that's number one, how I'm transitioning over the market. I've got 7 ADUs that I'm building right now. And so I know the money that I put into them, right? It's a lot of money out, but I do know it's like in the next 24 months, I'll earn all that money back based on the cash flow that I'm gonna get. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So ADUs is a big thing. And then what I really started putting a focus on was late last year when rates, so like for non-owner occupied, I was getting hit with like 8.25% on my interest rate.
Right.
There's zero cash flow. No matter how good of a deal I get,
Yeah.
Right.
if I want to place 30-year financing on it, there's no cash flow at 8.25%, right?
Right.
Add on tax insurance, all the shit like that, like forget about it, you're done. So a couple things. Number one, First Republic Bank. We've all been hearing about them in the news. Let me tell you, those guys were a saving grace to me.
Oh, I guarantee it.
So I got a couple buddies that work over there. They put me on with that. I have, just this year, I've acquired 2 rentals. I put on their 30-year financing. Swear to God, hand to God, on my daughters. I've got one in Pittsburgh with a 4.25% rate. I got one in Oakland at 5%. Messed up part about them is they'll only do like 65%
Yeah.
loan to value. So it's a lower loan to value, but because I bought these property lower, it actually worked
Works out. Yeah.
So that was cool. Then the main thing that I'm focusing on, though, is seller financing. So I picked up a few seller financing deals, subject to, I've been listening a lot to Pace Morby and all that stuff. I'm sure, you guys have heard of him. But he's got some really great concepts, and I have been trying to implement it. It typically takes a little bit more of a sophisticated seller to get on board with it. But if you can sit down and have a real conversation and just explain to somebody, real estate comes down to 2 things, and that's price and terms. And so a lot of these people wanted to get their price, and they weren't getting their price. I'm going to say that with an asterisk mark next to it, because it seems like right now today people are getting their prices. But a few months ago,
Right.
they were not. So there were times where I was offering people, for example, market price plus. So I was like, you want 700? What if I gave you 715, 725? And they were like, how could you do that? Well, we're going to stretch it out over 7 years. I'm going to give you a down payment right now. I'm going to put money in your pocket each month. And I'm already running my numbers. By the money I'm going to borrow to give to him, I got that payment.
Yep.
Right? His monthly payment, I got that payment. Add all these up, but what can I rent this thing out for? You see what I'm saying? And so it all just goes back down to numbers. So I ended up picking up a few seller financing deals. Those have been grand slams. I will just say, I guess it's more quality than quantity. This time last year, I had, 15, 16 flips happening at one time. now I have two. I've got these two development projects. I've got the ADUs. So I'm still running crews, but it's different. It's also not this huge burden of we got to go, right?
Right.
It's taking a little bit slower. Things are happening. Everything's getting permitted. And I'm just trying to get seller financing deals, that cash flow, that makes sense. And I've just kind of taken a little bit of the gas has been taken out of me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, same
my foot's off
goal,
a little bit.
slightly different approach, right?
Yep.
Intact, right? In theory, right? Like if you're going heavy seller finances, which I think is always big. I mean, subject to, I don't think too many people really actually play that game. You know, it doesn't sound like it.
Yep.
You know, because even a lot of title companies will go like, well, we're not going to touch that deal,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you know for a fact it's really not
Well, you
happening
gotta have a
all
good
the
team,
time.
man.
That's why you got to have a good team.
You gotta have a good team.
And, you know, if you're adjusting your approach like that, I think it's cool to watch you kind of navigate through this because, you know, the stick you do swing is heavier than a lot of people. I mean, we have people that do watch this podcast that want to throw money at real estate. You know, they want to throw money at either give it to a guy how you started out with Cris on the flip side, give it to, you know, how they want to invest with you. Maybe they're going to be the front runner to buy the house for their family member or friend to put their credit on the line, but also have a stake in the property. I mean, we're working with a client right now that's doing that. That to me, that's the creativity of real estate. And I bring it to that is because you've always been the most creative person I know within real estate. Real estate is also can be very gray. You know, there's a lot of things that can happen. You know, I don't want to say something because you know what I'm saying, but it is that way because that's how people make a grip of money because you buy the asset and it grows in appreciation and you can leverage it all the time. But you're buying assets when you technically don't own them, but you own a stake in them, right? In theory. Right. But I just think that's what I love about real estate. I love kind of being in a network that you've created for a lot of us, to be honest with you, and how we've also connected. Like you guys connected on Lopez Drive.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah,
like that's
that's
how,
right. Yep.
you know, and Akel and like that was because I saw a post. I don't know if it was you and him that put it up, but I was like, my boy should buy this.
Right.
And like, he was like, bro, I just bought that house. Like,
Yeah.
So it was just that's how cool I think real estate can be, especially in a market where we're in. But creativity is everything. And if there's anything I see you master, you know, you don't want the no. You're just going to go around it to get the yes. In healthy ways.
In healthy ways, yeah.
Healthy ways.
No means no. Right? But I would say that when we're talking about a seller, if they say no, it's usually like just, no, this way doesn't work.
Right.
And so there's always a way around it. And so to anybody who is watching, like, I almost didn't even want to shoot here because I remember when you and I were talking, I was like, bro, like, this isn't me. Right, like me, I've got a couple ADUs going on in Antioch, Pittsburgh. Like we should be over there, like, because anybody can get involved in that. Anybody can get a couple friends together, pull some money together. You're not going to make a grand slam. Stop trying to think you're going to do a home run on the first one. Just earn a little bit of money while you learn. Even if you don't earn a little bit of money, right? Like even if you lose a little bit of money, you're going to learn something. Yeah. And guess what? What you do have after you learn something is a story. And so what I started doing when I started going to networking events, all I had was stories. I hadn't even flipped my first home, but I went in there just like you, and I was like, no, I'm a flipper. Right. I'm a real estate investor. And I would share stories about other shit, right? About my rentals, about other properties that I had been in, or a flip that I almost did, whatever it was, right? But I had stories, and so all of a sudden I have credibility. And so you just learn with people like that. You grow with people like that. People start to trust you, and then all of a sudden deals start getting brought to you. Yeah. So, I mean, if you just make that sale on yourself, and you got to get around people. So you got to go to meetups. I know for a while with COVID, the meetups weren't happening. I think they are back now. But like, that's when I really first started getting my own deals. I was just going to meetups. I was going to meetups. I was talking to guys, and like, they would have something. Sometimes I'd partner with them. Sometimes I wouldn't. But it's just, as your network grows, I mean, everybody knows the network and net worth thing, but it's true.
It's the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire. Said this, Mark Cuban. He said the number one thing that he did to go from $1 million to $1 billion was networking.
That's it. That is it. It's getting around better people.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're buying flips, or you're buying investment properties, and you're talking a lot about like cash flow. And I think one of the big things right now that stops them from buying real estate right now is cash flow, because they feel like they're looking for cash flow right away. How important is it for you? Like, does the property need to cash flow right away, or is it okay to buy something that you feel like will cash flow later?
it
Like,
is
even if
never
it just
okay
pays.
to buy something that may cash flow later.
Okay.
Right? Never. Like if you want to earn money, that's number one. You got to buy something that. I guess let me explain what I'm saying. If you want to cash flow, people like there are some guys that have microphones out here, and they, in my opinion, say incorrect shit, and they have a huge influence on people.
Yeah.
And they say you can't cash flow in the Bay Area. That's absolute bullshit. All you got to do is you get an off-market property out here. In 2020, Gavin Newsom, love him or hate him, he made it super easy to make ADUs.
Yep.
Super easy. Every city in California has to abide by these rules, right?
And for the novice investor or real estate enthusiast, cash flow, right? Cash flow is your mortgage, right? And making money on top of that mortgage or breaking even, right?
Yeah, so let's just say you buy a home, and let's just pretend there's no HOA dues or any other monthly expenses. Let's just say it's principal, interest, taxes, insurance. You'll probably want property management, so take 10% off the gross rent. Let's just say it's $1,000 a month, though.
Right.
Your PITI plus property management, for conversation's sake, is $1,000 a month. If I can rent that property out for $1,250, then I cash flow $250.
Right.
Right? But then what you do is, and you can also Airbnb it, like in certain markets, like Airbnb, and you put that thing on steroids, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so many ways you can cash flow. But if you want to just do like long-term rentals, which I'm not saying you should do, there's way more money out there in vacation rentals and Airbnb, but I wouldn't. Things with Airbnb, I know guys that have literally built their entire cash flow business on that. I personally have a problem building my business on someone else's business. Mm-hmm. If Airbnb, something happens, or if that city all of a sudden shuns them out,
Right.
So I'm not saying have it in the portfolio,
Yeah.
right? But I would try to diversify yourself amongst the way you earn your income on passive income. So anyways, get a garage, two-car garage. No one needs a garage in California.
Right.
Nobody. A garage is a one-bedroom, one-bath space at least.
Facts.
You know what I mean? If you give me a little bit of a sliver, I'm going to fucking put 2 bedrooms in there. And people are going to love it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to increase my rent by about $500 a month on that. I walk through a house, so I'll get a home off market these days, right? Get a home off market. I'll walk into the space. If the kitchen is a little bit decent where you can fit a table in it, then the dining room's gone. That's a bedroom, right? And I do all this with permits. Everything I'm doing is legal, accepted, and it's good because a lot of people have big families, so they need more bedrooms.
Right.
A garage, boom, that's now either an ADU or a junior ADU, right? If there's a detached shed in the back, guess what? That's now a house too. And so everybody gets a house. Everybody gets a little yard.
You get a house.
Yeah,
you get a
exactly.
house.
And we put them in there, and what you're doing, you are putting some money up front, but all that money you're putting up front is borrowed.
Right.
Right? So you just go get a hard money loan, put that out, figure what your monthly is going to be, refinance out of it. If you bought it good enough where the value is at, a lot of the times when I refinance out, I don't even have to do a cash out, right? So I'm putting 10% down
Right.
on the buy. If you own it, I think it's either 6 months or 2 years. I don't know what the lending guidelines are right now, but you can't do a cash out. You can just do a rate and term.
6.
6 months? Okay. So long story short, I never have to put more money in on a refi because I bought right. So you just buy right.
That's
just
every.
negotiations.
I would say that's probably one of the most consistent things, right? And you can probably attest to this: is deals in the buy.
Always in the buy.
Always in
it
the buy.
has to be, otherwise it's not a deal.
Yeah.
You walk away.
Yeah.
And you just keep waiting.
Yep.
But again, kind of to the point, if somebody is eager, wanting to jump on in, if you have to put up some money up front, be okay with it. When I was first buying homes, my cash-on-cash return, I would give myself 5 to 6 years, right? So when I was first going in and I didn't really understand my own algorithms and things like that, I was just like, I don't know, if I'm dropping, let's say 50 grand, it'd be cool to get that back in 60 months. And so I would divide that out by how much cash flow am I making, and if I can get my money back
5 years,
in
yep.
5 years, I'll be good, right? Enter in some vacancy fees in there as well to, kind of hedge that bet. But long story short, you can always make money out here. There's ways to make money out here. It's just a matter of you're not going to go on the MLS and find it. Shit, you might, but good luck. You got to get in
I think
off-market groups.
I remember, what year was this? I think maybe like 2000 and maybe 17, 18. The MLS, before COVID happened, a little bit before COVID happened, the MLS still had deals that would slip through the cracks. I would specifically look for deals or for listings that were 15 to 20 days on market. And every once in a while you would crack a nice little something that no one really put their eyes on it. For some reason, it just slipped through the cracks.
Yep.
It's a little bit harder now, but I think now in the market that we're in, maybe we'll start to see some of that coming back?
Well, I'm gonna give a little pro tip, right? Here's a little life hack for anybody out there that's wanting to get into it. Any home that has been on the market for over 30 days, right? 60 days, especially, the higher it goes, the better chance you got. I would either, obviously, first off, call the agent, right? Call the agent, see what's going on. They're likely going to say either, they might gas property up, or it could be a tenant, or sometimes you will get just the real ones that are like, the seller just has unrealistic expectations.
Of course.
And on that one, and I just picked up a property like this, it's, hey, what if I could still get you your commission? I'll still get you your commission, but I'm going to offer them that price, but it's got to be on terms, right? I don't just jump in for the jugular right away. First off, find out, like, what is their motivation, why they're selling, blah, 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 right? And you kind of find out the story, and then you frame and work yourself around it to kind of get in on that. When people are trying to sell, like, typically one of their greatest assets, right? They're motivated to it, and sometimes they don't need all that equity right away, especially if I can say, hey, like, are you 1031ing it? If not, you getting taxed? Like, especially if it's not owner occupied,
right.
What do you got going on with this money? If I can get in and actually ask these questions, a lot of the time they didn't even realize that there was a secondary option out there.
Right.
So to anyone who's listening, if you are trying to, like, get your first deal or get a deal, if you see any properties on the MLS from that 30 to 60 day mark, call the agent, find out what's going on. It might take 100 phone calls, but I promise you there will be a deal out there that is just waiting for either a subject to or a seller finance.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they're out there. They're definitely out there. And just, I guess, taking the time to, like you said, be able to walk away when it's not the right deal, but also just taking the time to just call and ask those right questions, right? Like, a lot of people aren't willing to ask if the seller's willing to seller finance. And even sometimes you ask and they'll just say no right away, but maybe they don't even fully understand. A lot of agents don't even
I would say they might not
understand
have
what that
the wherewithal or like the knowledge of what even that is, right?
Yep.
So you got to have somebody that has like the patience to like have open ears and
Well,
for
some
you to
agents-
educate.
Well, it's putting the
Some
deal
agents
together,
don't
right?
even know what that
right,
is.
yeah, and
Yeah.
You know,
like you said, there's that stigma of anybody with a pulse can hop in this and do it, but it's like the ones that have longevity are the ones that are seeking information, continuing to learn, and use those weapons when a situation like this. Now it's like, okay,
Right.
this market's like this. Now let's go find those 60+ day on market things and try to have that educational conversation with the agent that might not know,
Yeah.
and be like, hey, because all that fucking agent really cares about is, like you said, that commission.
Where they getting paid. Yeah.
Right? So-
Everything still goes through escrow. It's all
Yeah.
happening. And also, like, use third party. So, like, what I've done as well is I have saved a Pace Morby. It's like a 7-minute skit with him with the realtor, right? And he breaks down what this thing is. So don't trust me.
Trust-
right?
yeah.
Do your own research. Hey, is this your cell? Boom. Check out this video when you get a minute. Hit me back tomorrow. Like, do your own research on it. This is super legal.
Yeah.
ethical.
Everybody does it
Yeah,
if they know about it.
Everybody does it.
Yeah.
It's a tool in the tool belt is what I always
Right.
say. Right.
music, when we did a deal that we bought, music's the one that coached me on the subject too.
Got you.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Like, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And it was so easy.
It's so easy.
Finding the title person and the escrow person actually was the harder part.
That's the harder part.
So
But they're out here.
They're out
But-
here.
but, like,
shout
then
out,
once you find-
shout out Kathy.
I say, but once you
Love you,
find
Kathy.
once you find one, right, now you can always bring it to that. Right?
But let me ask you this. I mean, obviously we're wrapping up, but like, how many times has real estate created like a full circle moment for you? And I would imagine it's got to be like a couple times, right? Like, and what I mean by that is, you look back 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and you're like, man, I've come around and I've completed this cycle of my real estate career. And then, oh shit, here it is again, and I've completed it again. Because that's how you kind of level up, right? Like, it's all right, dude. We good, Quentin? Yeah, clean that shit up, bro.
You gotta get into that mic now. He's letting us know. He said, oh
like
yeah,
how-
it's 12:40. The boys are back.
right.
He said,
But like, how many moments have there been? Like, what is it? Was it buying your first house? Was it buying, a specific house for you, or was it buying something or being able to leave your job? As I think is probably a full circle moment of my real estate career, having a development project start. Like, what
Yeah, they're
gets you pumped?
Man, and what gets me pumped, it's always it remains the same, but it also changes. Like, so what gets me pumped is, yeah, at that time, being able to walk away from a W-2 that, to your point, like a lot of people were like, oh, you made it, or this is great. I could do this for the rest of my life. And that's great for them, right? I'm not here to knock jobs or anything like that. That's makes sense for many, many people. It just wasn't within my DNA. So when I was able to actually leave and hit that target, again, it's just a proof of concept where there's no roadmap.
Yeah.
There's no roadmap for what we're doing, right? There's no blueprint.
Right.
There's this. There's
we
people getting
create the
together
rules,
right.
and sharing ideas and trying to better themselves and better the ones next to them and hoping that shit works out.
Right.
Right? And so having that moment, being able to walk away, that was a big one. Being able to live in a home of like my own and be able to go buy my next home with no problem, with not even selling my home, that was kind of a cool one. I have put up a very large goal, and I will tell you, even with all the shit going on, I will hit it this year. I'm very excited about that. And so I am the type of person, and I think a lot of us are in this industry that's at type A, and I gotta always have a carrot, right? I've gotta have something that I'm moving toward. And so hitting the goal that I'm gonna hit this year has been something I've been working towards, honestly, since I hit my last goal,
Yeah.
right? So I'll hit that this year, and as soon as I hit that this year, I haven't really thought about what the next one is. I guess subconsciously I probably have, and I'm just going to start going towards that. And so, there's always just this driving factor. And it kind of goes back to my guy, Rob Burton, who said, I don't have to do this if I don't want to. Like, I want to do this. And so I love doing this. I love taking a space. This home was special to somebody at some time, but when they left and we took it over, this place was trash. This place was not anything that anybody wanted to be a part of. And now we're going to completely modernize it. I got my vision on this. I've got my stamp on this. I'm meeting all kinds of cool people, designers, and so it's cool to be able to take an idea and then see that thing come to fruition. And so I'm not going to say that I'm just going to develop from here on out, but it is now a tool in my tool belt. I'm going to, prayerfully do this successfully. We'll do a few more. We've got the thing going on in Hayward, and I imagine I'm going to keep doing development deals, but I'm also going to keep doing rentals. I'm going to keep doing flips. I'm going to, I've got teams that can handle all these things. So I just want to keep growing. And I also get really excited about talking to people wherever they're at in their journey about how they're going to get to the next level.
Yeah.
I just feel very fortunate because I had some great people pour into me, right? And I think that's one of the biggest differences is I had people pour into me. They took the time. They showed me what to do, right? I learned through them. And I think they saw that I was hungry, and so they kind of maybe saw themselves in me or something like that.
Right.
And so I recognize that in other people as well, and I always do my best to either pay it back to those guys or pay it forward to these people, however you want to, phrase it. And so watching them and watching people that I know go make money and do this thing, it's exciting. It's exciting because we're kind of forging our own path.
Yeah.
It's not kind of we are, right?
Yep.
Right.
So
100%.
did that answer the question?
That answered the question, dude. Yeah, I mean, it's really just about how you kind of almost like a question of how you measure your success, right? In your own mind, though. Like,
Right.
as people have measured it in different ways, but yeah, absolutely, dude. Well, we good?
I think that's
the way to
top
end it
tier.
right
We
there,
came
dude.
to this beautiful property. I can't wait to see it when it's done.
You guys will definitely come back over, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving us the time, and man, just so much knowledge was poured into this podcast. It'll be one of my favorites for sure. I think
Absolutely.
it was a necessity, and we've talked about it for a minute now, right? Yeah. So I'm glad that you took the time, bro.
Absolutely, man.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, brother.
Mike Nelson, true legend. Soak up this game. Together we rise podcast. We're out.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.